Archive Servitor 93 Omicron is online. Accessing archived Imperial data. Initiating story protocol. A summarized account of the process of aspirant selection, transformation, and ascension. Author unknown. The journey begins not with ceremony, but with selection. Across the 9 worlds of Ultramar, every family harbors the same desperate hope that their son might catch the eye of the Legion's recruitment cadres. These are no ordinary soldiers conducting these evaluations, but seasoned battle brothers whose augmented senses can detect the slightest flaw in character or constitution. They seek something beyond mere physical prowess, something that burns in the soul itself. The exposure trial stands as the first great winnowing. Picture this, if you will. Young candidates cast into the wilderness of Macraga's harshest territories with nothing but their wits and determination. The frozen peaks of the polar regions become their crucible, where temperatures plummet far below what unaugmented human flesh should endure. Some perish within hours, their bodies discovered weeks later by recovery teams. Others emerge after days of struggle, forever changed by their encounter with absolute desperation. But survival alone proves nothing. The challenge trial awaits those who demonstrate resilience, and here the true horror begins. Each aspirant must face a fully initiated battle brother in single combat. These duels are not meant to be won, but to reveal the depths of courage hidden within mortal hearts. Bones shatter and consciousness fades, yet the worthy continue fighting until their bodies simply refuse to obey. Apothecaries monitor every heartbeat, ready to intervene when determination crosses into meaningless death. The psychological screening proves equally merciless. Imperial scholars have spent millennia perfecting these examinations, probing for the specific mental architecture required to house the Emperor's gene seed. Aggression must be present but controlled. Intelligence sharp but not questioning. Loyalty absolute but not blind. The mind readers employed by the chapter can detect the faintest trace of corruption, the smallest seed of doubt that might bloom into heresy decades hence. Those few who survive these preliminary trials discover that their ordeal has only just begun. The fortress of Hera becomes their new world, a place where beauty and brutality intertwine in ways that would drive lesser minds to madness. The graceful balconies overlook training yards, where aspirants push their bodies beyond human limitations. The golden domes house libraries filled with tactical wisdom, but also chambers where hypno-indoctrination rewrites the very foundations of thought and memory. The biological transformation commences with tissue compatibility testing so thorough that every cell is examined for genetic purity. The apothecaries who conduct these procedures have elevated surgical precision to an art form, their movements guided by centuries of accumulated knowledge. They know exactly which genetic markers indicate success or failure, which bloodlines carry the sacred compatibility with Guilliman's legacy. When the first organ implantation begins, the aspirant crosses a threshold from which there can be no return. The secondary heart arrives first, its installation requiring surgical skill that borders on the miraculous. This additional organ must seamlessly integrate with existing cardiovascular systems while the recipient remains conscious, feeling every moment as foreign tissue bonds with their own. The pain transcends physical sensation, becoming something that rewrites the very concept of endurance. The os modula follows, flooding young bones with hormones that trigger explosive growth and hardening. Aspirants watch their own bodies transform day by day, limbs stretching beyond human proportions, while their skeletal structure reinforces itself against impacts that would pulverize normal men. Sleep becomes impossible, as growing pains rack every joint. Yet the hypno-conditioning continues, drilling tactical doctrines and imperial litanies into minds struggling to adapt to their changing neural chemistry. Each subsequent organ brings its own unique torment. The Biscopia floods muscle tissue with growth stimulants, causing aspirants to consume vast quantities of protein while their bodies literally rebuild themselves. The Hymastamin alters blood composition, introducing new chemical pathways that will eventually allow survival in environments toxic to baseline humans. Every change comes with adaptation periods measured in weeks of agony, where the line between transformation and destruction grows perilously thin. The chaplains oversee spiritual conditioning with the same ruthless efficiency their apothecary brothers apply to physical modification. These grim warriors understand that creating a space marine requires more than biological enhancement. It demands the complete reconstruction of the soul itself. Their sermons blend religious instruction with psychological programming, using techniques refined over 10 millennia of warfare. Within the halls of the fortress, aspirants learn that failure carries consequences beyond mere disappointment. Those whose bodies reject the gene seed face death or permanent disfigurement. Those whose minds crack under the strain become servitors, their consciousness hollowed out to serve as organic components in the chapter's machinery. The truly fortunate failures find themselves assigned to the Ultramar Defense Forces, their enhanced training making them valuable even as they carry the shame of inadequacy. The Codex Astartes becomes their constant companion, its pages containing wisdom that must be absorbed completely rather than memorized superficially. Unlike other chapters that rely on psycho-conditioning to implant knowledge, the Ultramarines demand genuine understanding. Each aspirant must demonstrate mastery of tactical principles, strategic thinking, and the philosophical foundations that separate an Astartes from a mere enhanced warrior. Training regimens commence at the hour before dawn, when the pale light of Macraga's sun barely illuminates the fortress walls. Here, aspirants discover that their previous understanding of physical limitation was merely illusion. The drill instructors, scarred veterans whose own transformations occurred centuries past, show no mercy to those still trapped in mortal weakness. Combat scenarios unfold with lethal precision, pitting aspirant against aspirant in contests where hesitation equals death, and victory demands absolute commitment. The hypno-indoctrination chambers operate continuously throughout these months of transformation. Aspirants spend countless hours connected to neural interfaces that bypass conscious thought, implanting tactical doctrines directly into their developing minds. The process leaves them disoriented and nauseous, their skulls throbbing with newly acquired knowledge they cannot yet fully comprehend. Battle cant, weapon specifications, enemy recognition patterns, all flooding into consciousness while their enhanced brains struggle to process the overwhelming influx. Sergeant Telian himself oversees marksmanship training, his legendary skills evident in every lesson. Under his watchful eye, aspirants learn that accuracy transcends mere technical proficiency, becoming instead a sacred duty to the Emperor. Hours stretch into days at the firing ranges, where each shot must demonstrate not only precision, but understanding of wind patterns, atmospheric pressure, and target psychology. Those who fail to meet his exacting standards find themselves subjected to additional conditioning until perfection becomes instinct. The Laraman's organ installation marks a particularly grueling phase of biological enhancement. This modification alters blood coagulation so drastically that aspirants experience constant bleeding from minor wounds, while their bodies adapt to the new cellular chemistry. Training continues despite their weakened state, forcing them to fight through blood loss that would incapacitate normal humans. The apothecaries monitor each case carefully, knowing that infection during this vulnerable period could prove fatal. Spiritual instruction intensifies as physical modifications near completion. Chaplain Cassius delivers sermons that blend theological doctrine with practical wisdom, his words carrying the weight of millennia spent in service to the Emperor. These sessions explore the philosophical foundations of duty, the nature of sacrifice, and the terrible responsibility that comes with wielding power beyond mortal comprehension. Aspirants learn that strength without righteousness becomes corruption, that knowledge without wisdom breeds heresy. The catalepsian node implantation brings new challenges as aspirants must learn to function while portions of their brains shut down for rest. Sleep cycles become fragmented experiences where consciousness drifts between waking awareness and restorative unconsciousness. Training schedules adapt to accommodate these changes, with instructors pushing aspirants to maintain combat effectiveness even while operating on diminished neural capacity. Analysis maintained by the chapter's librarian indicates that fewer than 1 in 50 candidates who enter the trials will emerge as fully initiated battle brothers. The remainder face various fates depending on the nature and timing of their failure. Genetic rejection typically occurs during early organ implantation phases, resulting in rapid death despite the best efforts of attending apothecaries. Psychological breakdown manifests later in the process, when the accumulated stress of transformation overwhelms mental defenses carefully constructed over years of preparation. Those whose bodies survive the biological modifications, but whose minds prove insufficient for full Astartes conditioning, often find placement within the Ultramar Defense Forces. Their enhanced physiques and partial training make them valuable assets, though they carry the burden of knowing they fell short of the ultimate calling. Chapter records indicate these individuals frequently demonstrate exceptional courage in later service, as if seeking to prove their worth despite their earlier failure. The final phase arrives when surviving aspirants receive the sacred progenoid glands, the repositories of future gene seed that will one day create new generations of Astartes. These organs represent the culmination of their transformation, marking them as vessels of their Primarch's genetic legacy. The ceremony, conducted by Chapter Master Calgar himself, acknowledges their transition from mortal flesh to something transcendent, though still incomplete. Induction into the 10th Company as Scout Marines signals the beginning of their true service to the Emperor. Under Sergeant Tellion's continued guidance, these newly minted neophytes learn that survival of the trials was merely preparation for the real crucible. Their first combat deployments will test everything the Fortress of Hera has instilled within them, where theoretical knowledge meets the brutal reality of humanity's enemies. The path from aspirant to full battle brother spans decades, yet those who endure this sacred transformation emerge as living weapons consecrated to the Emperor's will. They carry within their enhanced frames not merely the gift of superhuman ability, but the accumulated wisdom of 10,000 years of warfare. Each represents the successful fusion of mortal determination with divine purpose, forged in the crucible of Ultramar to stand eternal vigil against the darkness that threatens mankind's survival in this grim galaxy. Archive transfer complete. Click like command to confirm comprehension. Engage subscription protocol to ensure continued access to future archive editions.